A thunder of silence fell before the gun spoke. The marble hall glimmered under the chandelier's gold light, yet something felt wrong. Ethan Cole felt the shift. That cold, invisible current before chaos. His heart raced. Then the sound came. A single, clean gunshot slicing through the stillness. Vincent Moretti collapsed, crimson blooming across his white shirt. Ethan froze, hearing his own breath louder than the echoing shot. Shadows trembled on the walls. The Empire's heartbeat stopped with its king. A phone buzzed nearby. One message sent, "It's done. The king is dead." Ethan whispered, "Who gave the order?" The scent of gunpowder burned his throat as he turned toward the door. The mansion lights flickered, and a whisper of footsteps faded into the rain-soaked night. Something unseen watched him from beyond the glass, patient and silent. The storm refused to quiet. Ethan sat in his car, engine off, phone glowing in his hand. "It's done. The king is dead." The words pulsed like a heartbeat. His reflection in the windshield looked like a stranger's, hollow, drenched in guilt. Lucas' warning echoed in his mind. Trust no one. The city lights smeared through the rain, turning gold into rust. Ethan said, "Who benefits from this?" The silence gave no answer. Somewhere in another tower, the message was already spreading, traveling faster than the truth could catch it. Each name deleted, each contact cut, the Empire erasing itself. Ethan's hand trembled as he deleted his own number from the network. Was he cleaning his past or erasing himself? Morning light bled through the blinds, pale and cold. Ethan hadn't slept. The city outside hummed. Sirens, whispers, and the echo of betrayal. His apartment smelled of gun oil and burnt coffee. He replayed the scene in his mind. The body, the text, the silence after. It wasn't random, he muttered. Files covered the desk. Ledgers. Coded bank routes and old photos of Vincent's empire. Every path led to someone inside. His stomach tightened. The truth wasn't justice anymore. It was a weapon. Ethan looked at the cracked mirror, seeing a man who could no longer tell which side he was on. Detective voices echoed through the crime scene. Luca stood by the mansion gate, silent as cameras flashed. "He built an empire of ghosts," one officer muttered. Luca said nothing. Ethan watched from afar. Hidden beneath an umbrella, each flash of lightning revealed the end of an era. Police chalked outlines where loyalty once stood. But the silence between sirens was heavier than guilt. Ethan whispered, "Thou think it's over. It's only beginning." He turned away, knowing someone among those uniforms was already paid to bury the truth. Hours later, Ethan returned to the mansion. The silence had a pulse. Dust floated through slanted beams of moonlight. His shoes echoed on the marble, the sound of regret. He found the shattered glass where Vincent fell. Bloodstains dried like dark confessions. On the floor lay a gold cufflink, engraved with a name not Vincent's. Ethan's breath caught. "You were never alone," he whispered. He slipped the cufflink into his pocket. The chandelier above him swayed again. Not from the wind, but from footsteps on the upper floor. He looked up. The light flickered. Someone was still there. Rain hammered the warehouse roof like war drums. Ethan's breath came fast as he stepped into the dim light where Marcus waited. "You were followed," Marcus said, his voice sharp, eyes flicking to the window. Ethan turned, hand brushing the pistol at his waist. Shadows moved outside, not one, but 3. "We don't have time for paranoia," Ethan said. Marcus replied, "Paranoia's what keeps us alive." A car door slammed in the distance. The air thickened with diesel smoke and fear. Ethan's pulse quickened. Every drop of rain sounded like a countdown. "They know," Marcus whispered. The message was traced. Ethan froze. The chase had begun before he even knew it. Hours later, they hid in a cheap motel room that smelled of dust and old smoke. The silence buzzed louder than the neon outside. Marcus handed Ethan a folder. Names. Roots. The one still loyal. Ethan scanned the papers, his fingers trembling. "Half of these men are dead," he said quietly. Marcus shrugged. "Then you'll need the other half more." The lamp flickered, throwing shadows across their faces. For the first time, Ethan saw the exhaustion in Marcus's eyes. Not fear, but the kind that comes from years of betrayal. He said softly, "You trust me, Marcus." Marcus replied, "I trust whoever bleeds with me." Somewhere across the city, Isabella Moretti poured red wine into a crystal glass. Her smile held no warmth. On the screen before her, surveillance footage showed Ethan's meeting in the warehouse. "Predictable," she murmured. A voice on her speaker asked, "Shall we proceed?" Isabella replied, "Not yet. Fear makes them useful." Behind her, the portrait of her late father, Vincent, loomed over the firelight. "You wanted a legacy, father," she whispered. "Now you'll watch it burn." Her phone vibrated. An encrypted call. "He's moving east," the voice said. She smiled again. "Cold and perfect. Good. Let him run." In an old chapel hidden beneath the city, Luca waited. Candlelight flickered on the cracked altar. Ethan entered, rain dripping from his coat. "You shouldn't be here," Luca said. "Neither should you," Ethan replied. Silence stretched like a blade between them. Luca finally spoke. Vincent's death wasn't the end. It was a message from someone inside. Ethan's heart sank. Luca's eyes softened. "You still believe there's justice left in this city?" Ethan answered. "I believe in debt, and I owe the truth." Luca looked away, murmuring, "Then be ready to pay for it in blood." The candles flickered, as if agreeing. The city bled neon and rain as Ethan sat on a rooftop, wind tugging at his coat. His phone buzzed. A secure feed flickered to life. Maps, bank accounts, coded names. A spiderweb of power unraveling in front of him. Marcus's voice on the comm. "You sure about this? Once you cross that line, there's no going back." Ethan's jaw tightened. "There was never a line. Just lies we drew to feel clean." He pressed send. Somewhere, servers burned, accounts vanished, empires crumbled. The storm below mirrored the one in his chest. But behind the static, a voice whispered, "Isabella's." "Well played, Ethan." The city was quiet for once. Fog hugging the tombstones like breath. Ethan stood before Vincent's grave, the scent of rain and soil mixing into something heavy. He thought peace had finally come. Then a voice broke the stillness. "Isabella's." "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. Ethan turned, relief and suspicion colliding. "Neither should you," he answered. Her smile looked tired, fragile even. She stepped closer, leaving red petals on the wet path. "He wasn't the man you thought," she whispered. For a moment, the world slowed. Ethan wanted to believe her, but something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt, a tremor of control, whispered that calm was only disguise. They walked along the cemetery's edge, silence stretching like a scar. "He trusted you," Ethan said quietly. Isabella's eyes glistened. Trust was his weakness. Her voice trembled, not from grief, but something deeper. A crow's cry cut through the still air. Ethan exhaled slowly. "You sound like him," he said. "No," she replied. "I learned from his mistakes." She stopped, placing her hand on his arm. "You don't have to fight this alone." The touch felt warm, but her pulse raced under his fingers. "Maybe I already am," Ethan whispered. The wind shifted, scattering petals across the path. Beauty disguising decay. Inside an empty cathedral, Ethan found Luca lighting candles. The smell of wax and dust filled the air. "You look like a man searching for ghosts," Lucas said. Ethan replied, "Maybe I'm looking for the living who act like them." Luca chuckled darkly. "You and I are mirrors, Ethan. Killers pretending to seek redemption." Ethan's voice cracked. "I never wanted this." Luca stepped closer, candlelight catching his scar. "Then stop pretending. You don't destroy empires by saving souls." Ethan looked down, trembling. Lucas' words burrowed deep, cutting through the illusion of justice he'd built. He wasn't sure if he hated Luca, or himself, more. Night fell hard. Ethan met Isabella in the old mansion, the air heavy with memory. "It ends tonight," he said. She smiled faintly. "You're right." A gun clicked behind him. Marcus' voice followed, cold, steady. "Sorry, Ethan. You were never supposed to last this long." Ethan turned, disbelief freezing him. "You sold us out." Marcus lowered his gun. "She offered me a future." Isabella's eyes softened, but her words were knives. "You were too loyal to die quietly." Ethan lunged, but the shot came first, pain blooming white-hot. His last thought wasn't fear. It was betrayal in her smile. Ethan awoke to pain and silence. The mansion was empty now, echoes of gunfire swallowed by the storm outside. He crawled toward the shattered window, clutching his bleeding shoulder. His reflection stared back from the broken glass, fractured, unfamiliar. "She used me," he whispered. The phone nearby buzzed once, a message from an unknown number. "You were never the target. The real game begins." Ethan's pulse steadied. Rage replaced despair. He looked out into the rain-soaked city. "You want a war?" he said through gritted teeth. "You'll get one," thunder answered, and the Empire's ruins lit up once more. Rain had stopped, leaving the mansion wrapped in silence. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Ethan sat against the wall, blood drying on his shirt, eyes fixed on nothing. The sound of dripping water echoed like a heartbeat. Betrayal no longer hurt. It numbed. His reflection in the shattered glass looked older, distant. "Was any of it real?" he whispered. A faint wind carried the scent of lilies from Vincent's garden, the same scent that clung to Isabella's coat. His chest tightened. That wasn't a coincidence. He stood, each movement heavy, and followed the smell into the cold dawn. The truth had a scent, and it was closer than he thought. As Ethan walked through the overgrown garden, memories returned like film reels flickering in reverse. Vincent's laughter under these same lights, Isabella's hand on his shoulder years ago, whispering, "Family is everything." He could still smell the roses, the same perfume she wore that night. The past and present blurred. Voices overlapped. Vincent saying, "Trust blood above all." Isabella echoing, "Even blood stains." Ethan froze. The realization spread slow and cruel. She had been planning this long before the gunshot. Every kind word, every shared glance was rehearsal for betrayal. The truth wasn't new. He'd ignored it for years. Ethan found Luca waiting beneath the broken archway. The city's noise barely reached them. "You knew," Ethan said, voice low but trembling. Luca didn't deny it. "I told you there were ghosts. You just refused to see which one wore your name." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She was my family." Luca looked away. So was Vincent. Silence cracked between them, thick as smoke. Ethan stepped closer. "Why didn't you stop her?" Luca met his eyes. "Because you wouldn't have believed me." The words hit harder than bullets. Trust had blinded him, and now only truth remained, sharp, cold, and merciless. He found Isabella in Vincent's study, calm, elegant, surrounded by the Empire's ashes. "Why?" Ethan asked. She smiled faintly. "Because power rots slow. Father was dying long before his heart stopped." Ethan's voice broke. "You killed him." Isabella shook her head. "He killed himself, one secret at a time." I just ended the suffering. Her tone was steady, righteous almost. And you, she added softly. You were meant to inherit his throne, not his guilt. Ethan felt the world tilt. Ethan felt the world tilt. The storm had passed. Ethan walked through the empty halls, every footstep echoing with finality. His wounds ached, but clarity burned brighter than pain. He understood now. The Empire wasn't built on loyalty or love, but on lies traded for survival. He whispered, "So this was the truth all along." Vincent's portrait lay shattered beside the doorway. Ethan picked it up, glass cutting his palm. Blood met dust. He smiled faintly, not from peace, but resolve. The past was dead. The lie was buried. Tomorrow, he would burn the rest. He stepped into the morning light, reborn in ruin. The city held its breath before the storm broke. Neon lights flickered like warning flares over empty streets. Ethan moved through the rain-soaked alley, gun drawn, heartbeat echoing in his ears. Every shadow looked alive. He whispered, "It ends tonight." The wind carried sirens from afar, ghosts of war returning home. He saw figures moving ahead, their silhouettes sharp against the lightning. The air was electric, alive with tension. Somewhere, Isabella waited, calm amid the chaos. Ethan felt it, the weight of destiny pressing down. One step closer, and the quiet would shatter. They met inside the old shipping yard, metal creaking under wind. Isabella stood at the far end, her red coat aflame in the dark. "You could have ruled beside me," she said. Ethan's jaw clenched. "You killed what I believed in." She laughed softly. "Belief? You mean obedience." Gunfire tore the silence. Sparks exploded off steel. Ethan dove for cover, the air thick with smoke. He shouted, "You became what he was!" Isabella fired back, her voice breaking, "And you became what he feared." Their words collided harder than bullets, two truths crashing in the dark. From the chaos, Marcus emerged, wounded, desperate. "Stop!" he shouted, limping toward them. Ethan froze, gun still raised. "You betrayed me," he said. Marcus coughed, blood staining his lips. "I tried to fix it, but she never planned to let me live." Isabella's gun trembled. "Don't make this harder." Marcus smiled faintly. Too late. He stepped between them as the shot rang out. Ethan caught him as he fell, the world slowing to silence. Rain mixed with blood on the concrete. "Why?" Ethan whispered. Marcus gasped. "Because someone had to believe in you." His eyes closed. The cost of loyalty was always blood. Lightning tore open the sky. Ethan faced Isabella across the burning docks. Flames reflected in the water, casting red across their faces. "You think you're free?" he shouted. She stepped closer, eyes wild. "Freedom is surviving the fire." They circled each other. Two halves of a broken legacy. Ethan lunged. Her shot grazed his arm. He fired back, shattering the crate behind her. The rain hissed against fire. Their breathing filled the silence between explosions. "This was never about power," Ethan said. Isabella smiled sadly. "No. It was about who we become when it's gone." The final gunshot echoed like an ending prayer. The fire died slowly, replaced by whispers of rain. Ethan stood alone at the water's edge, smoke curling from the wreckage. Isabella's red coat floated on the tide, a ghost fading into dawn. His chest burned with exhaustion and silence. He dropped his weapon, watching it sink. "It's over," he whispered. Though he didn't believe it, the city beyond was still alive, waiting for another king. He turned toward the horizon, the first light breaking through clouds. The war had ended, but something in him stayed burning. Not revenge, but purpose. The past was gone. The reckoning had begun. The storm was gone. Only silence remained, heavy and patient. Smoke curled above the blackened docks, and the sea reflected dull silver under a tired sky. Ethan stood among the ruins, coat torn, breath steady, but hollow. The scent of ash clung to him like a memory. The city no longer screamed, it exhaled. He knelt beside the place where Marcus had fallen, his fingers tracing the wet pavement. "You kept your promise," he whispered, voice breaking like glass. Seagulls returned, cautious and curious. For the first time in years, there was no command to follow, no voice to fear, only loss and the quiet truth it carried. Ethan sat on the hood of a rusted car, staring into the pale horizon. The road ahead was empty, just wet asphalt stretching into mist. In his reflection, the ghosts lingered. Vincent's pride, Isabella's cold grace, Marcus's loyalty carved into silence. He rubbed his scar absently, tracing the cost of his choices. "I should have seen it coming," he murmured. The wind carried faint laughter from a distant street, alive and ordinary. It almost sounded foreign. The world was moving on, and he, for once, wasn't running. Guilt no longer screamed. It whispered. Life would continue, though never the same. The fog thickened by the pier, wrapping the world in white silence. Ethan stopped when he heard a voice. Soft, familiar, almost kind. "You're still too stubborn," Marcus said. He turned, and there he was, or what was left of him. The figure smiled faintly, wind passing through like light through smoke. "You did what you had to." Ethan's throat tightened, and it cost everything. Marcus nodded. Then it meant something. The ghost faded with the rising sun. Ethan stood still, tears lost in mist. Forgiveness didn't heal the wound, but it made breathing possible again. Later that day, Ethan returned to Vincent's office. Dust floated in thin sunbeams, dancing like old ghosts. He brushed the desk with his hand, uncovering a cassette. Labeled "To the Last Survivor," he pressed play. Vincent's voice came through the static, weary, calm. "Power is an illusion, Ethan. The moment you try to hold it, it holds you." The tape clicked off, echoing in the hollow room. Ethan stared at the recorder, realizing this was never about revenge or justice. It was about release. "You were right, old man," he whispered. A tear traced a clean line through the dirt on his cheek. Evening settled softly over the wounded city. Ethan walked through narrow alleys, the hum of life returning around him. Footsteps, distant laughter, clinking glass. He passed graffiti marking the fall of the old regime. A crown crossed out in red. He stopped, staring at it under flickering streetlight. "No more kings," he whispered. His reflection stared back from a puddle. Tired. Scarred, but alive. He exhaled slowly, letting go of every name that haunted him. The sky turned violet, the air smelled of rain and freedom. For the first time, he didn't feel broken. He felt finished and reborn. Dawn broke slowly, like a wound learning to close. The air smelled of salt and smoke, but the fire was gone. Ethan stood on the cracked pier, where waves licked at the blackened wood. The city behind him exhaled for the first time in years. Birds returned, cautious, as if testing peace. His reflection on the water looked older, heavier, almost peaceful. "It's quiet now," he whispered, voice swallowed by wind. Every scar told a story no one would ever hear. He felt the weight of survival. Not victory, not loss, just endurance. Was it worth it? He asked the sea. The sea stayed silent. Ethan's footsteps echoed through the narrow street where it all began. The old neon signs flickered, still fighting for life. He carried nothing now. No gun, no ring, no crown. The world had taken everything and left him freedom. The air smelled of rain and distant bread from a bakery waking with the dawn. He paused by a rusted trash bin and tossed an old photograph into it. The syndicate, all smiles before blood. Flames curled the edges, faces melting into smoke. "Let them rest," he said softly. He walked on, slower, calmer, until even his shadow disappeared into the light. Later that night, in his small apartment, Ethan found a message blinking on an old recorder. Marcus's voice emerged, thin and fragile. "If you're hearing this, you made it. Don't waste what's left on revenge." The words lingered like smoke. Ethan closed his eyes, listening to the silence between them. He imagined Marcus laughing again. The sound of gunfire distant, irrelevant. "You kept me alive, brother," Ethan whispered. Outside, rain brushed against the glass. Steady, endless. The world felt washed. He pressed stop. The red light faded, leaving only his reflection in the dark window. A man reborn by loss. Weeks later, the city had changed. The walls, once marked by violence, were now painted with color. Markets buzzed. Children ran through puddles. Laughter filled the air like forgiveness. Ethan watched from a distance. One face among millions. No one looked twice at him now. That anonymity felt like grace. "You see," a vendor said, smiling as he passed, "storms always end." He nodded, slipping his hands into his coat. The skyline shimmered in morning haze, cranes rebuilding what chaos destroyed. The world had learned to live without kings, without fear. Time moved again, and Ethan let it carry him. At sunset, Ethan returned to the pier one last time. The sea was calm, reflecting fire and gold. He stood with hands in his pockets, watching the horizon blur between day and night. Everything felt lighter, as if the world had finally forgiven itself. "Every empire falls," he murmured, "but truth remains." A small bird landed near his feet, unafraid, then flew off into the glowing sky. He smiled, not from joy, but from peace. The light touched his face, soft and endless. The wind whispered through the ruins like a benediction. His final thought lingered. Truth must never be owned.